there was a big family death. My dad passed away, and he was the main supporter of like my horse passion, if that makes sense. And so that really hit.
It's recognizing these small wins.
Yeah.
Rather than looking at what you didn't do and chastising yourself.
But unless we're mindful about it, you don't think, why am I feeling this way? You just kind of think, oh, this person is being annoying, move, right? Or just stuff like that where, you know, you almost get into...
Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to the Long-Term Podcast. I'm your host, Advin Villa. Today, we have artist, photographer, and owner of 3 Horses, Sara Balaberda. We will discuss self-help, navigating change, healing through growth. Sara owns 3 magnificent horses, one of them being a pony. It's a great conversation. She's been through a lot in the recent years, but that has only propelled her passions to take initiative and do what must be done in regards to fulfillment and meaning. I am excited for all of you to listen. Everybody, welcome. Have you been painting lately?
No. I've mostly just kind of been drawing a bit, but a lot of my energy's been going towards my photography. So.
Oh yeah. What do you look for with photography? Because I know with photographers they know what it is, like everybody's got their own styles, right? Everybody's got their own moments, whether it be the sunset or a ladybug or just portraits of people. So what inspires you?
So I don't really think I found my one thing yet, but at the same time I really like capturing like it all started when I first started taking pictures of my horses, and then I was like, oh, that's really cool. But what I found...
Like just on your iPhone?
Just on my phone. But then I also... and then I would see what's on my phone. And then I would always think how much cooler or how much, better could it be if it would be one of those photos that you see that are super like high quality or whatever, right? So, and then through learning my graphic design and going through school, that's when I started using Photoshop and getting into photography and stuff. So I guess I really like taking a picture, but also editing it and kind of making it into something I see, but like nobody else sees, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like in your head, it's extremely difficult to manifest it into a physical reality because often your expectations are here, but then the reality, it's just extremely hard to translate that. And I know with we have all these like colorful ideas and imagination, and with how closely does your imagination resemble like the physical art? Like do you often look at the art and go, wow, like that's exactly how I envision it? Or do you kind of go, oh, I don't know, this is
See, sometimes I feel like sometimes it is exactly how I've envisioned it, but a lot of the time there's always something that I could have added or something where I could have done this or that. And where I struggle is, sometimes I'll duplicate a picture and I'll edit it a different way. But then I like both ways I did it and just this and that. And so, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, there's the 2 different pictures. Yeah. But then you do a little bit of a little strategy on one and then a different kind of routes on the next one. Yeah.
Just kind of, warm, cool tones, whatever, but also kind of saying, because I have so many ideas, I can't just put all of them into one picture. And I think that's what I struggle with most, is deciding between which way I want to go with my style, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I have so many ideas for different things, but then there's only so much time during the day. You can't do it all. And then like with energy too, kind of fluctuates. Like I'll wake up some days and I'm just so excited to get started in my creative endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
And then some days it's just, it's a chore. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely, and with my photography, I've definitely felt that where, I don't want to do it, like, or I just don't have the energy for it. But I find like I get energy from those times where I do feel really inspired and everything. And it can just be random moments throughout the day where I might just think of something and I'll feel really inspired in that moment. But maybe I can't I can't just go and take pictures in that moment if I'm in the middle of something. But I almost save it for later. Like I might make a note of what I want to do, and then maybe I'll say, okay, that's what I'm going to do this weekend. Or just kind of something where in those moments of inspiration, I kind of create my path for my photography. That makes sense.
Do you use Apple Notes?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Apple Notes, or even if I'm at work, sometimes I have mini sticky notes. I'll literally just write it on there.
Little reminders, hey?
Yeah, little reminders. And it's like, it doesn't even have to be a big reminder. It's just those little things that go, oh yeah, like remember how inspired like I felt when, I thought of this. And then it reminds me of what I was thinking about. And then I kind of get re-inspired. That makes sense.
Yeah, no.
But yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to self-help, what are the some of the most impactful self-help practices you've adopted, and how have they influenced your creative process? Because I know with art, it's just there's really no way to quantify kind of to get better.
Yeah.
Right. Like sometimes it's really how you feel about the art.
Yeah, no, I find within art and stuff, I've gotten frustrated a lot. That's definitely something that's been reoccurring. And I find so having patience with myself through like the frustration or doing the art or whatever I'm creating, because a lot of the times it won't go exactly how you plan it will. There'll be a change or you might change your mind or something. And so through that, I've used it for growth in a sense of speaking of, I save it for later almost. Like I make a bookmark in my mind of even like any frustration I've had. Like I'll kind of think about, okay, why am I feeling frustrated?
You channel the emotion.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's kind of like, I channel that emotion and I figure out where it's coming from or what's causing it, or even just how it's making me feel. And then from that, I find like, okay, like how can I do this differently in a way where I won't be frustrated or this and that? Because I find like when we are working on something or creating something, like we almost get stuck in these bubbles of frustration. But then I think if you open your mind and kind of look at other options, like there's not just the one way to do it where it is like frustrating and stuff. And yeah, so for me, I think it's just kind of having patience with myself and being open-minded and just kind of, if that
giving
makes
yourself
sense.
some time to kind of marinate in that idea and seeing if it's actually worthy to add time to see it grow. Because there's all these different projects, all these different possibilities that you could travel in. Right? Now, which one is optimal for my time?
Yeah.
And how do you maintain consistency in your self-help journey, especially during periods of self-doubt or creative block?
Yeah, because I don't feel like inspired all the time. And like there's definitely times where I do get that creative block or whatever.
There's a discipline that needs to be added in.
Yeah. And I find discipline is one of those things where it is strict and whatever, but I think there's also, you have to have some lenience with yourself and kind of, I lost my train of thought. Sorry, can you ask the question
That's okay.
again?
That is like, how do you maintain consistency in your self-help journey, especially during periods of self-doubt or creative block?
So yeah, for like so with my creative blocks and the consistency and discipline and everything, I yeah, so discipline, it is important, but I find that just kind of persevering, definitely, like for me, with consistency and perseverance and all of those things, I've found, like there are those days where I do want to be consistent, but then there's those days where I don't want to be. And so I kind of just think about my why, or like,
What's your why?
um, well, it can change for anything, but I think for like creativity and like photography or art or anything, it's just kind of, it comes back to that self-help almost. Because, it's like, okay, why do you want to do this? And for me, it's like, okay, I know I'll feel better after. Or like I know, like I kind of have to psych myself up and kind of tell myself, like, I know I don't want to do it, but think about after you do it, or after. And so I think just kind of thinking about, the end result, or thinking about even achieving that end result, helps me gain that consistency. But also just kind of the perseverance for self-help.
Yeah. I mean, when you struggle at something and you put in your time, definitely that end goal is so rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
And with any passion that we have, whether it be going to the gym, whether
Mm-hmm.
it be archery or figure skating, art, photography,
Yeah.
there's just going to be those days where you don't feel compelled to do it and it feels like a chore.
Mm-hmm.
But if you believe in it, if you don't lose that fire, eventually that thought of why you did it in the first place will come back.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you keep reminding yourself and you keep traveling down that route, right? So when you say think of the end goal, like doesn't that take away from the progress though as you're doing it? Doesn't that make it difficult?
I think if you're thinking about it, and from a certain perspective, it could, maybe like reading the last chapter of, or last page of a book. But I think if you also look at it from a perspective of like, because for me, I think, okay, I'll never get there. But then if you think about, okay, but what if you do? Or even if you do get there, So it's kind of, you have to change your perspective a little bit. Or for me anyways, just to kind of be a little bit more proactive, but also kind of, when I get down on myself, when I feel like, I can't do it, or like it's never gonna get done, or like this or that, what helps me, because like when I think, oh, it's never gonna happen, it's like, okay, why do I want to do it anyways?
Yeah.
Right.
And then all this doubt, all this fear that you have instilled inside of you, when you do accomplish it, it's so rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have replays of it in your head every time you look at the finished product of, hey, I am this capable person,
Mm-hmm.
and I can accomplish a task even if my mind tells me I can't do it.
Yeah.
Certainly our minds can be our biggest enemies, hey?
Oh yeah.
Like it can be our greatest limiting factor. Like when you want to do something, there's always that voice in the back of your head like, yeah, but what if?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what if?
Yeah. And and I have struggled with those what ifs for, my entire life. And something that's really helped me with just kind of overcoming that is changing your what ifs to even ifs, because it's like, like, what if I fail? But even if I fail, just that little perspective change.
Oh, I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of, what if is kind of like, what if this happens? What am I going to do? But even if is kind of like, even if this happens,
I still tried my best.
Yeah.
Even if this failure occurs, I still did it.
Mm-hmm.
What if this happens? And you just don't get started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Because because what if this, what if that, but you'll never find out if you don't start. So
Yeah.
for me, I guess just kind of initiating that starting point, but using those little strategies of like even if.
There's always the mental battle,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I have many tools kind of in my toolkit to be able to start and leverage and try to improve. But then there's always the day that comes where it's like, doubting yourself and kind of swimming in this soup of negativity.
Yeah.
And little things like that can make a massive difference of even if.
Yeah.
You just got to get started. There's no perfect condition.
Yeah. Well, because I know for me in my life, like there's been times where, I wish I would have started that thing or like done this thing or like whatever. But then I don't, because I think, okay, what if this, what if that, whatever. But then you never find out. And so, like I think a good example of this in my recent life that's a little bit more spontaneous is like, I just got a mini pony. And I was worrying about how am I going to bring her home because I couldn't find anybody with a truck or trailer to help me. And so I was like, oh, what if? But then I'm like, hey, even if I don't find anybody. So I rented a U-Haul and I just brought her home because even if nobody helps me, I'll still find a way to do it myself,
And it's those learning curves, eh?
Yeah.
Because prior to getting the pony, and I know you have 3 horses now.
Yeah.
You got Atlas, Lily, and what's a pony's name?
Penelope.
Penelope.
Yeah.
Prior to getting your first horse, you had no idea as to how to get started in the first place.
No.
But now, if somebody were to ask you, hey Sarah, where can I get started? How can I adopt a horse?
Yeah.
You can give them a breakdown, even give them a tutorial into the first step that they can take, advise them from point A to point B, and give them the do's and don'ts.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy because I even think about like when I was there and I was getting my first horse, and like now I look back at myself and I think I was crazy a little bit. But it's kind of but then I also think about it and I just did it. I didn't think what if I didn't, I did it, and it was one of the best things I've ever done because now, I have my other horses. I have my photography, which was inspired by my horse. Yeah. So it's just kind of added a lot to my life.
Yeah. What compelled you to get a horse in the first place?
So I always wanted a pony or a horse or something, but just growing up, like my family, it just really wasn't in the, just wasn't it. And so,
I feel that.
Yeah. Right. And so when I was 18, I moved out on my own, whatever. And then,
in this market, kudos to you for doing that.
Yeah, it was tough, and definitely, and like I think, like going into this, it's one of those self-help things where it's like, I moved out on my own, and I was doing good, and I was growing and stuff, but I didn't have any animals of my own or anything, and I always felt like I needed that. But then what really was like a big push for that was when like there was a big family death. My dad passed away, and he was the main supporter of like my horse passion, if that makes sense. And so that really hit home, and it hit really hard because it was super unexpected. And when I was going through that, it was one of those things. I was on my own, and it came to a point where I could see myself snowballing, and I think, how can I change this, or what needs to change so I don't feel like this anymore? And so, that started with changing my living situation, but it really started with getting my first horse because I really needed to put that passion into something, but I also just needed something to be passionate about. And so, yeah, and it's crazy because now I think about it and it's like, yeah, with Lily, my first horse, I didn't even meet her before I got her. She was from Calgary. I just bought her sight unseen, 3 hours away. And now here we are like 3 years later and she's still here, but it's also like she's helped me grow in so many ways, but also like it's kind of cool because I've gotten to see her grow too, you know? But yeah, bottom line, I think is just kind of just that passion, really, and just kind of needing to fulfill that passion, but also grow it into something else.
Yeah. So growing up, you've always had a passion for animals.
Yeah.
And your dad was a big supporter of it. At 18, you had moved out, and this is around the time that your dad had passed away.
Yeah, because I graduated and then he passed away about 2 months later.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, and you're put into this place of just these heavy emotions, right? And you don't know where to go to because the person that you look up to had just passed away, and now you have to really rely on yourself to be able to live a life that is meaningful to you.
Yeah.
And how do you get started with that, right? When you're in that place, like, well, aren't you worried about kind of the monetary side of things, or
like what do you mean?
Like with money, the finance side, and just even the time that it takes, because you're at this time you're working as well, right? As well as at that time you're also planning to go to school, or you were in school.
I was planning,
yeah. So with all these responsibilities and moving out at 18, I haven't done that, you know. So how'd you survive?
So yeah, I think like when we talk about like starting or like first steps, like for me, like if you look at getting a horse as the first step, okay, that's a huge first step. But for me, I remember like when everything happened, like I was lost. I didn't really know what to do. And you don't really need to, because for me, my thing was like, if you just keep waking up, you know, every day you wake up, and even if that's the only thing you did, you still woke up.
It gets heavy some
right?
days.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so, but yeah. And so it's kind of like, yeah, on those really heavy days where you're really doubting yourself and like, oh, like, what if, or
this
like,
will never get better.
Yeah. And so I think, you know, it's really important to just focus on like the bare minimum. Like, okay, well, like, oh, I didn't do X, Y, and Z today, but it's like, but you woke up. Right. So it's kind of just looking at like those little things, but also like making them a bigger accomplishment if those things are bigger for you in that moment.
It's recognizing these small wins.
Yeah.
Rather than looking at what you didn't do and chastising yourself, you look at even the bare minimum, bare minimum wins.
Yeah.
And you take pride in that. And this propels you to take further action.
Yeah. No, it definitely, sorry, can you specify a little bit more?
Like recognizing the small wins.
Oh yeah.
What if it's just, okay, I've woken up, that's it. That's it for me. But how does that work in your psyche? Does that cultivate a like gratitude mindset of some sort and makes you go, oh, okay, so I've done that. What's the next step?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of like when you're focusing on the smaller wins, you know, like eventually, you woke up. But that won't be like your win forever. And so something that in my mind, it's kind of like the small wins make the big wins. Like, you know, so it's kind of like the little baby steps. And so in my mind, part of it is gratitude, but then part of it is also, don't know if perseverance would be the right word, but just kind of the confidence that I can persevere, or that, like you will see the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's days where I wake up and there's that dread. Like, oh, here we go again. But then persisting through the day
Yeah.
and actually still going to work, still hitting the gym, still being kind to other people, being there for your friends, the pets, and being there for yourself.
Yeah.
Sure, there's all these things that are chaotic, and that's something that's just you can't solve it right away. Maybe, you don't even know if there's an answer.
Yeah.
But still, you still woke up. You are alive. You can see, you can feel, you can do anything. Right? And a lot of people don't leverage the human resilience enough. I think we're truly capable of so many things, yet we dwell on such frivolous events and the what ifs and the doom and gloom.
Yeah, and that's where like the even ifs kind of have helped me, right?
Yeah. So when you had mentioned that Lily, your first horse, has helped you grow as a person as well, as you're training Lily too.
Yeah.
How can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, for sure. So when I first got Lily, like she was a mess emotionally. Like she was super scared of everybody, this and that. And so with that, like horses, I mean, I'm sure any animal, but I know, like, since I'm passionate about horses, I know for a fact, like they do feel your intent or your feeling or anything. And so even if, you're feeling anxious, they'll pick up on that. But it's also, where that's kind of helped me grow is I have struggled with anxiety most of my life and everything. And so working with Lily, it was really a big eye opener, because when I first would go to work with her, she'd run away because she wouldn't want to work with me.
Like this girl's too anxious.
Yeah.
Like I feel it in the vibes,
yeah, the
energy.
Vibes. Yeah. And so with that, I kind of, you hear just breathe or whatever, but it's like you really kind of have to like recenter yourself and kind of like, and it's not that you don't feel the anxiety. It's like you feel the anxiety, but you breathe through it, kind of.
You accept it. You let it flow.
Yeah. And so with that, with Lily running away from me whenever I was anxious, it kind of forced me to kind of do that and then get to a point where I was able to kind of harness my anxiety to a point where I would feel it, but I could also kind of keep it cool, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you control your anxiety.
Yeah.
And by focusing on your breath and kind of aligning it, kind of accepting it kind of dissipates. Like it's still there.
Yeah.
But then Lily sees that, oh, this is she's controlling it. She's staying calm. And that's like everybody's got anxiety in a way, right? We all some people control it better and some people channel it and just their sport. But horse therapy, it's a big thing now. I think it's up and coming. Hey, is it? I know when you're around horses, they can sense.
Yeah, well, because they sync their heart rate to yours, or vice versa. So if their heart rate is beating a little slower, which I think usually
they match it.
See, yes and no, because so if there is someone, like if there is a horse and a person, the horse will like kind of, I don't know if they do this every time because I'm not like a horse doctor. But they do kind of match their heart rate and everything to that person. So if that person, if their heart is going like a million miles per hour, why would they want to be around that person? And so, and it's stuff like that, but it's also even like frustration. Because I know there was so many times where I would get like frustrated at Lily and she would run away from me because she could just sense I was angry or upset or something. And so like she has helped my anxiety, but also like just kind of, you know, with those moments of frustration, learning how to harness that as well. And so overall, like I think, you know, my horses have really helped me with a lot of things, but more so just learning how to work through my own things to kind of, so I can go on and, you know, do the things I really want to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Being more zen by help Lily. You need to be able to control your emotions because she'll just run away from you.
Yeah.
If she can detect that, oh, your heart rate's going 140 beats per minute, she'll go, this is stressing me out.
Yeah.
I'd rather stand over there. I don't want to associate with this girl that's highly anxious and doesn't control her emotions well, frustration. Like,
yeah, well, and it's that. And then it's also like, if you're anxious, they don't know you're anxious of them. So they're looking around, they're saying, what are we scared of? Right. So it's that too. But
are they looking for a leader almost?
Yeah. Like yeah.
Is that kind of in the biology of horses though? I know like in the wild, do they run in packs? Kind of, I don't know any horse.
So it's they do and they don't. So like it's kind of same with how, you know, deer, you know, the female deer will go in the group and everything. But horses in the herd, they always have like the leader. They always have the one horse. So it's kind of, you know, like in a wolf pack, you have the alpha. There's the same thing with horses. There's always that one horse that's the top. Or if it's not that horse, it's that person. Yeah. So it's kind of just establishing those boundaries. But yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to witness just the animal kingdom and like how just certain animals like wolves and even chimps, horses, they form in packs and they always look for that leader that they can look up to. Because I think in a way we're all unsure. I think we all, even with us humans, we're continuously looking for that leader, that mentor that can teach us the ways, you know?
Well, well, and I think in a way that was like, even like Lily was kind of my mentor in a way too. But yeah, even like working through all of those, one of the main things is like my confidence through, you know, working through all of those things and working with Lily and with animals and just doing like things that I never thought I would be doing. So has just kind of made me believe in myself more.
Yeah. By helping you had mentioned that Lily was troubled.
Yeah.
And she came from a not so compassionate carer that treated her as inhumane and being able to be close with her and to teach her all these new tricks and to develop that bond that's instilled confidence in you to be able to go out in the world, to trust yourself. Yeah. That, oh, you can connect and you can go about and learn all these things to teach your first horse. Yeah.
Well, and it's even that. And then I think it's how, you know, before I got her, I didn't know anything about horses. And, you know, within a year of me having her, all of that, like, dedication, whatever, she was completely changed. And so I think just seeing what I could do with when I thought I wouldn't be able to do even a little bit of what I did really just kind of changed my perspective. Were
you scared that she might kick you? Like, I know horses have some powerful kicks. They've killed people. I definitely. Yeah, and this is kind of why I think I was a little crazy, because I,
I had no idea if she would kick me or not. Like, and and thank God she doesn't. But I just look back and I think, I could have gotten a crazy horse or this or that. But, and at the time, I think I did feel that fear. But, even if. So, yeah.
Even if.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still tried your best. I mean, she kicked you and now you're dead, but.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, I tried my best. But no, it's definitely, I definitely took precautions. And I did have a few people from the like horse community teach me things. And like I've learned a lot from not just one person, but like a collection of people. And it's, it's definitely been crazy, but it's crazy to kind of see what a community can do as well.
Yeah, you feel a part of this body of people that all share this one goal is to be there for their horse to nurture them, to be able to teach them new tricks and to be able to love them and for the horses to love you back. Yeah.
And sometimes like, all the people in the community don't like jive or whatever, but I think it's kind of like coming back to that self-help is like, hey, if I can't do it myself, I have these people I can ask, so just having that sense of community.
Yeah. It's powerful. I mean, a lot of people that don't have community feel really isolated, and I think we're just not programmed to go about the world alone. Like we need other people to make us feel sane. Can you share any specific books, mentors, or experiences that have significantly shaped your approach to personal growth?
So like I said, like I don't think there's like one mentor or one thing, but if I did have to choose that one thing, I was, and I have picked up all these tools and I whatever, but there was this video I came across and I read it was a video and these two people were talking and this one person was saying like, I always want to change I always want to change things. I always want to go to new places. I always want to try new things, like trying to figure out who I am, but I don't know. And then the other person, like, they just respond with, well, maybe that's exactly who you are, right? Someone who wants to change things, who wants to do this, wants to do that. And I think that's changed my perspective because, like I've always been in the mindset of, like, what do I need to change or like this or that? But it's kind of that just kind of like almost hit a switch where it's like, maybe you trying to change, maybe that's just who you are. Maybe you weren't trying to change into anybody. That makes sense.
Like you're constantly evolving from this person who didn't know anything about horses to now you know a lot about horses, but still you're still wanting to change, whether it be your mind, body, and soul. Yeah. And because a lot of people get frustration on, oh, why am I not content with anything? That I have it, but then it seems that it's never enough. But then that's part of human nature, right? And that's just following the paths that are worthy and that are fulfilling, that don't destroy you inside. Now, did you relate with what that person said? Like,
I did, because I've always kind of been thinking about like, oh, I could try this, or, I need to do this, or, there's always just been something that has been needed that I've thought has needed to be done, or just even if it's not just something specific, it's just like, okay, what is there? But then reading that, I'm like, there isn't anything to change. That's just who you are. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you crave novelty. Yeah. You crave to be able to create things, and it's just you constantly want to improve and better yourself.
Yeah. And I think with that too, because a lot of the time, like in social media and stuff, it's like change yourself for the better, this and that. And I think that's great. But even before you try to start changing yourself, you have to figure out who you are.
Yeah. The constant self-reflection of, who do I need to be?
Yeah.
Like, is this a life that I'm comfortable with? Now I always think of like if you could. Have you ever seen the movie Groundhog's Day? Or
Yeah.
the kind of that premise of kind of over and over the same day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how would you live your life if that was you were gonna have the same day over and over on repeat?
Well, see, and it's like my life has felt like that sometimes, and it's almost like that's when, you can't help yourself anymore, when every day starts feeling the same. And when it is that repeat and this and that and this and that, and things just, like the day just keeps repeating and things don't get better and whatever, that's kind of when, yeah. And so my answer to that is what would I do in that situation? I don't know, but I've had situations that have felt like that. And that's when I've made the decision to initialize the self-help.
Like repeat as in
Like,
it just feels meaningless and you're kind of just going through the motions without really being cognitively aware, being purposeful.
Yeah, no, exactly.
No, I've felt that. It's just like you drive to work many times and then you don't even know if if that was on a Wednesday, Thursday, and it's just I think to combat that for me has been gratitude and kind of maybe taking a certain route or just the level of self-talk that I have certainly does help kind of cushion the blow of feeling like, oh, this is meaningless and monotonous and I'm in this like daze.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's even kind of like I remember before I even had my horses and everything, and I was just like, I didn't have, like, I had a life, but I didn't have a life. Like,
I get that.
In the sense, yeah, like where I didn't feel like it was super meaningful, and like I had like, yeah, my wants and my needs and my things, but I didn't have something that really made me feel like something that was a huge passion of mine that I had to look forward to and grow towards. And so, yeah, when I got my horses, that all changed.
Yeah, I think there's this quote of some people, like we're all alive, but only a fraction of us are living.
Yeah, no, I have heard that before, and I think it's kind of like when you feel mundane, or when anybody feels mundane, it's kind of like I know I've gotten stuck in it, and so, and I don't know if some people may just get used to it, this or that or whatever, but for me, it's just when it's almost like when my life is empty, that's when I feel the most depleted, because I just don't have those things to motivate me.
Like lack of hope.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like, it is important to have like confidence and be able to work through your things with yourself, but also like kind of like looking outwards at just things or whatever, I find can really help.
Yeah. We all get stuck into this kind of cycle of, is this it?
Yeah.
Is this what life has to offer?
Yeah. And like, and it's one of those things where it's like, I just didn't want to feel like that anymore. So it's kind of like, okay, well, what can I do?
Yeah. What can I change in my routine that establishes hope, that establishes me getting up in the morning and actually wanting to live?
Yeah. And definitely having like, like even just having like, because a lot of people, like they have like their thing, like, it might be like archery or whatever. But, and I feel like, if you don't have like your thing or your few things, you kind of, you don't lose your sense of self, but it also almost hinders you from gaining any sense of, or more sense of self, or a deeper understanding of sense of self, if that makes sense.
It's like, where do you think that stems from though? Like when people don't really know themselves, and I think it's like a lack of self-reflection. I
think it's a lack of self-reflection, but also like, I think that definitely is a huge part of it. But also the people they surround themselves with as well, because I like kind of touched on it earlier, but if you like, surround yourself with like-minded individuals, or just people that, you want to surround yourself with. But there comes a point where, if you do feel mundane and this and that, and like maybe self-reflection is the first step for self-help or anything, right? So it's kind of like, I don't know how to specifically answer that, but that's kind of like my general.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's just there's people that are gonna skew you into a different path, and maybe that's not your ideal route. Maybe it goes against your virtues and what you believe in, and you don't need to follow that, but you will be influenced as to what they have to say. And if you continuously expose yourself to that person, then you may believe what they believe in, and maybe what they believe in isn't all that meaningful.
Yeah, well, and I think it's even like with self-reflection, it's like if you surround yourself with people who don't allow you to really like grow. And an example of that would be, if you want to say something, or if you just like want to do something where you feel like you can do it and you feel confident in all this, but then they shoot it down, or like this or that, then that can also. So I feel like, yes, there are people that come from those perspectives where it is a lack of self reflection, but it's also, I feel like, who you surround yourself with, and just kind of like the support you have around yourself, really. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how many times you're self reflecting, if you've got a person that continuously puts you down and inhibits you from reaching your full potential, then you'll never experience a level of fulfillment, because that person's continuously dragging you back.
Yeah.
And maybe that person just cares about you in their own sick way, right? Maybe they just don't want you to get hurt. But I've learned this kind of recently, as just because they're family or you've known them for decades doesn't mean that they're good for you. You can love them from afar. You can forgive them. But when it comes to reaching a person's fulfillment and reaching a level of love and compassion and having that lens where you want to do good in the world, you have to do what's best for you first.
Oh, definitely. And like, I felt that with my own family dynamics growing up. Like I do have individuals in my family that have been like that, but you always think, oh, it's them, it's this person, they're my family. And we've all, growing up, for me anyways, you're always taught to look up towards your family, rely on your family, do this and that. But what happens when you can't, right? And so I feel like for me growing up, like kind of realizing that I couldn't really rely on those people, or that like those people were coming from a good place, but it wasn't putting me into a good place, right? So it's kind of, and it took a long time for me to find that discernment, because, oh, well, what if they're thinking of it like this way? What if they're thinking about it like that way? But the reality is like, but this is what they're doing, right? And so, and like, it can go on for years and you won't even realize it before you actually look back and you see, okay, this is how long this has been happening for. But yeah, and so I think it's just kind of having that discernment, but also knowing how other people make you feel about your own ideas. If that makes, or your own choices. Or
there's plenty of people out there that do not want to see their friend or family member fail, because maybe they just don't see the utility into that passion or that activity, that event. But then it holds that person back immensely. And if they don't just accept that gives so much friction and so much distance to the relationship.
Yeah.
Instead of just like seeing them grow and follow their passions and what it means to be free for them.
Yeah.
You're tarnishing the relationship because you just don't want to support them. And maybe that's coming from a place of care.
Well, and I think part of, but I think part of like not wanting to support them is just not having confidence in that they can do that. But I feel like that comes from not having confidence in like in like their own person or whatever. And so like an example is, you know, I've had family members, like I bought a car and maybe the money, this or that, like, and it's kind of, or they don't agree with like my decision or this or that. And so it's like, I can see where they're coming from, but I think it's really important to just kind of look like, is that like healthy even for them to be reacting like that? And like, that's another thing of, you know, your community and stuff. And yeah, your family is a community, but kind of coming back to that discernment, if that makes sense. But yeah, I just find when your family doesn't have confidence in themselves, or when somebody doesn't have confidence in themselves, that can affect their confidence for other people.
Yeah, it's emotional contagion.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't see myself doing the things that I want to do, so I don't want you to get better, right? I want you to kind of stay in the same little bubble as me. And that's part of it's like selfish, part of it is, oh, you just want to stay connected to that person, but it's like that's their own life.
Yeah.
Right? That's like you have to embark on your own journey. And then again, if it's not hurting anyone, if it's not you know, rooted in hate and disrespect, then do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so with all the changes that you've gone through, like, how do you adapt to changes that disrupt your routine or creative projects, and what strategies help you stay grounded?
So I don't have like one specific answer, but for staying grounded, you know, through change, because any sudden change will definitely like make any person feel insecure or like they're not grounded in this and that.
It's daunting because we're creatures of habit.
Yeah, we are. And so, and routine and all of this. And, you know, when you're learning new things, your brain is literally changing and all of these things. And so, just for the consistency of it, you almost have to carry that within yourself and within like your passions and your thing, not like really your material things, but more so like the things that make your life worth living, if that makes sense. And just so like, for example, for me, through any big change, like, you know, my living situation might change, my car might change, this might change, that might change. But I always, like, for me, I know I can always come back to myself, work through that frustration, that anxiety, whatever. But I also have, you know, I have my horses. I have my little support system things that I've acquired that have kind of helped me stay consistent. But yeah, I don't really think you can look for consistency. Or, well, you can look for it, but you can't really rely on consistency outside of yourself, because everything changes all the time and nothing is forever. And so things are bound to change eventually. But yeah, just having that, almost that confidence inside of you, knowing that you can just work through the change.
Yeah. There's this idea of having confidence in many areas, kind of like little safety nets here and there where, okay, if this goes awry, then I got my horses. If this goes awry, then I've got my support system. I got some friends and family that love me, that care about me. And
and if it's even not that, it's just like, and that's where like, if you know who you are, that really helps
Yeah.
because then you have the consistency of that.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what they think.
No.
Like if they can call me all the names, they can call me all these hurtful things.
Mhm.
But I know in myself, I know the truth. I know that I will persevere, that I am doing the best that I can.
Mhm.
And they don't know me. They can make all these assumptions, but
Yeah.
they've never lived a day in my life. And if they did, then maybe they would understand, but they just don't.
Well, yeah, and I think it's
Mhm.
important having that perspective.
Mhm.
Like, nobody else has lived in my shoes, but you also haven't lived in anybody else's shoes either.
True.
Right. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like that's when you ask me a question about, like, what would you tell other people? And it's like, well, I know what I would tell myself, but everybody is so different in the way they navigate things where, I can offer things, but I don't have answers.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest revelations I have that keep being reinforced every single day is all the things that work for me, my workout routine, my diet, my sleep schedule, what makes me happy, what
Mhm.
doesn't, what kind of virtues I align with, my faith.
Yeah.
It's not going to be 100% the same for another person.
Mhm.
Like I have advice to give them, but I do not have answers. It's
Yeah.
kind of this Socratic method of what is the truth to you? And it's all different for us.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also, I almost think it's good we can't, give people answers or anything. Cause I think if someone just told me the answer,
Yeah.
There's that journey that you have to go through to really get there.
I'd be kind of skeptical too if this person just
It was like,
had the answer. Like,
yeah.
Advin, this is how you should live. There's no other way.
Yeah.
It's like, either you're naive or you've been through a lot, or it really depends on their credibility and who they are.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you describe a time when an unexpected change led to an important realization or opportunity for growth?
Yeah, so I would say, from when I mentioned earlier, like my dad passing away. So, that was a super sudden change. And, yeah, definitely at the time, it didn't feel like I would be growing from it or anything, but, where that opportunity came in for growth is everything I had known just kind of vanished. And that really sucked, but it also kind of placed that opportunity for me to be able to kind of build new things, change things, whatever, to kind of persevere in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah, what did it feel like when you found out?
Yeah, when I found out, it was pretty tough. Like it was kind of like an earth-shattering moment, but kind of like the moment where your world just kind of goes quiet. Because yeah, like I was at work and everything and whatever, and it was Saturday, and I remember getting the phone call that he had passed away, and yeah, and I just remember leaving work. I drove home and everything, and I remember getting home and like that was it just like my dad, he's lived in like a different province and everything, but when I got home, it felt the home didn't feel empty, but like the air almost. It just felt like stagnant and empty. And so and yeah, it just felt like I felt super lost and I really didn't know what to do. And so yeah, there are some, you smoke weed or you do this or you do that or you abuse things or whatever. And so like there were moments where I would kind of, not be like the perfect version of myself or whatever.
Kind of be in a self-destructive way. I have been in some periods in my life I used to stress eat and things weren't going my way.
Mm-hmm.
And that lack of control that has kind of I've internalized as a way to combat these tense feelings and just like feeling down,
Mm-hmm.
feeling like a victim, feeling like nothing ever goes my way
Yeah.
and life just is dealing me the wrong cards.
Yeah, and
And
it's hard not to feel like that when stuff is happening, because I know for me that's the first place my brain goes, is because like it's like, oh, of course this is happening to me, or of course there's that other
like
thing, or this,
again,
yeah,
yeah.
again. But and that's just life, when and life happens, and it will always happen. It's just kind of um
Yeah.
yeah,
You just have to accept it sometimes and internalize that this is trying to teach me something, or this will teach me something.
yeah,
And you gotta always look at the silver lining of things that do occur,
yeah,
because in retrospect, a lot of the misery and frustration and anger
hmm,
that we go through results in a lot of growth, and there's a lot of healing to be done in chaotic situations such as the passing of a loved one. I
yeah.
haven't experienced anything like that. I worry how I might react to it, but yeah, no, this just nobody goes through life unscathed.
No, and like I think it's kind of like when people do find out that my dad had passed away or whatever, that is a lot of what I hear, like, oh, like I don't know what I would do, or like, I think about what if that happened to me. And I always used to think about that. I even growing up, I always thought about, like, oh, I could never imagine it. But and though it's those things where I find myself thinking I could never imagine that happening, that does happen. But I find that when shit hits the fan, those are the times in your life where you either can really grow from it, or you can really like go down the wrong path, or both, kind of. You can stray from your path first and maybe find your way back. But yeah, they're definitely, yeah.
Yeah, they teach us a lot about ourselves and how we react in stressful situations.
Mm-hmm.
Of, oh, this seems to have left a hole right on my chest, like a void that I
Mm-hmm.
can't breathe. I'm gonna self medicate with alcohol or
Yeah.
weed, or just mo- watch TV all day because I've lost the sense of kind of meaning and purpose.
Yeah. Well, and
But
I think it goes back to like, when you don't know what your first step is, or whatever, like, um, or like what any step is, you're like, hey, I'm going to do this because I don't want to feel this way, or I don't know, or whatever. To, because like, over time, like those feelings, like they do kind of eat away or whatever. And so people like, yeah, like for example, alcohol, people do self medicate with alcohol to kind of combat those things. But
yeah, sometimes
yeah.
it's then you're pushed into feelings of just intense pain and
Hmm.
suffering, but then that usually helps you grow.
Yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
hard because then that's where everybody is so different, because, you can put two people in the same situation and they'll react differently. But then that's also where I think like everyone's life path or whatever, like, is true to them, because like, for example, like, my dad passing away, when people say, oh, like, I don't know how I would react or this or that. And it's kind of like, you don't need to right now. Right. Because it's like, yes, like that's part of my path and it sucks, but like everybody has their own path and everybody has something shitty. Right.
Mhm.
Or maybe a few shitty things. And it's just kind of shapes us and who we grow into, really.
Yeah, everybody's got their own battles that we know nothing of,
Yeah.
and we all heal in different ways. Now, how has your artistic journey contributed to your healing process, and what role does photography play in that?
So with my healing process, so initially when everything happened with like my dad and everything, I found even just like picking up a paintbrush and like painting, it just kind of, I just wasn't thinking about it, you know? I was thinking about everything about the way I'm doing the painting or everything. And so it's just kind of, my art has really just helped me kind of recenter myself in a way where it's like, okay, I sit down, I do my art, whatever. Or even with my photography, I, like, it's just, if I need something else to focus on and I just, whatever, like my photography, my art, those things are just things I always come back to because I find like when I'm actively doing them, I put my all into it and I do get completely absorbed into it and I'm not thinking about anything else that's happening in my life. But yeah, so they've just kind of helped keep me grounded in a sense. Yeah.
Like the flow.
Yeah, the flow.
Yeah, where you don't think of anything else and you're just immersed in the process.
Yeah, exactly.
You're deeply passionate about the endeavor.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you believe are the key elements of using growth as a tool for emotional and psychological healing?
So I think the key elements, like, perspective is a big one. But kind of, my even like my what ifs, even ifs, like just how that is an example how perspective can really change that, but also just kind of patience and perseverance, patience with like yourself, but also people around you. Because I know like when stuff is happening in my life, I might not be patient with myself, and sometimes I really might not be patient with other people. But when you kind of, work through that and you ground yourself and you self-reflect, that can really, move you towards a really good direction and towards self-help or whatever.
Yeah. Just sitting with your emotions and just being comfortable with the intense feelings.
Yeah.
Instead of bursting out and just making everything 10 times worse.
Yeah. Yeah, because I find like as people and like anything we're feeling, like, we feel that emotion. But unless we're mindful about it, you don't think, why am I feeling this way? You just kind of think, oh, this person is being annoying, move, right? Or just stuff like that where, you almost get into like a negativity mindset.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find just having patience and yeah, just being gentle with yourself, but everybody else can just kind of help your own perspective in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's just giving yourself some time to just think about what other people are going through.
Yeah.
And realizing that you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
That, hey, this has happened to somebody out there in the world, that you can persevere. So how do your experiences with horses and your passion for them connect to your personal healing and growth journey?
Yeah, so kind of like we touched on earlier, they've really forced me to self-reflect and not internalize, but just kind of like look at myself, reflect of why am I feeling this way? How do I work through it? This and that. And so having, my horses has helped that, but my passion for them has also just it kind of like, even if I don't know what I'm going to do, I know that, maybe I'll go see them. Maybe that'll be my first step, or just something like that.
Kind of the bond, the connection that you have with them.
Yeah. No, it definitely helps. And even like, again, like we touched on earlier, like that communal feeling. And I think like animals can be part of that communal feeling because, you know, they're an animal. They can't talk to you or anything, but there are bonds people have with animals. And, you know, sometimes when you're having a really shitty day and you go out, or like when I go out and see my horses and they all come up to me happy and everything, and I'm able to like work with them and like just leave feeling good, it turns my day around. But yeah.
Just having that sense of purpose and looking forward to seeing your horses adds so much to life.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming on the long-term podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. It was good.
Yeah. It's been quite the journey you've had, hey, adopting all those horses, your dad passing away, and just learning all these things. And
yeah, it definitely has been a journey. I'm ready for just life to stop for a bit.
Yeah, to chill.
But yeah,
go on vacation somewhere maybe.
In this economy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, are there any last words to?
Pretty much just kind of like for me, you know, changing my what ifs to even ifs and having that confidence to do things through doing those things that I didn't have confidence with initially has just been like a life-changing in a way. Not to sound too like, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, and definitely could see you having your own kind of training business one of these days.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it.
I have my, I'm only starting with 3.
Yeah.
3's just the start.
And as always, to everyone listening and watching, there is a place for you in this chaotic world. Never lose hope, strengthen your faith, and keep it long term. Sara Balaberda, everyone.
Alrighty.
Peace.
Peace.